Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, tmosso@thewatchbox.com. It's in the description below. Your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any of our platforms. Please reach out to me directly. I am tmosso@thewatchbox.com for pricing details. Today, we're discussing the heart and soul of Breitling, albeit in a richer form than most. The Navitimer B01 Chronograph 43 in rich rose gold. You can see 43 millimeters in diameter, 14.1 millimeters thick, and then 49 millimeters from lug tip to lug tip with a 22 millimeter spacing between the lugs. On my 16 centimeter circumference wrist, it wears quite nicely. Large, to be sure, but it is an instrument-style watch, so being a little bit larger for the sake of legibility makes solid sense. Taking a look down the barrel, the lugs are not out over the edge of my wrist. One of the major changes since the new ownership took control of Breitling in 2017, it's been the presence of shorter lugs on newly debuting cases. So we still have large watches, but shorter lug dimensions means smaller wrists can now play. My wrist is 16. I think you could wear this watch on a wrist as small as 15 based on the clearance I've got on each side. It's not thin, and with a little bit of an overhang to the bezel, it probably will cause dress cuffs on shirts to get hung up, but a jacket should be okay. Now this is a rich watch, which is why we don't have a conventional calfskin pilot's watch. This is alligator leather. You can see progressing from medium down to small rectangular scale. It's an unusual cut to see on a watch, as we usually have a little bit more homogeneity of scale size, but it's interesting, unique, has a novelty that I find pleasing. There is a sort of semi-gloss finish to its medium brown coloration. You can see in profile, we have a folded edge, and then pilot style, a contrasting stitch. We have that on both sides, and you can see on the bottom, a brand new Breitling factory strap. It's not crimped, it's not gouged, it's in great shape. It's calfskin on the bottom. And then we've got a folding clasp. Again, something you wouldn't find on a typical Navitimer. It adds protection against accidentally dropping your watch. It has both polish and satin on it, and a twin trigger release, so you have to press both before this opens up, so it cannot fly open inadvertently, giving you a bit more security on the wrist. It does have the look of a vintage watch. That's been a common trait on many Navitimers, as the basic case shape hasn't changed over the years, even as the dimensions have waxed and waned. Now, the original Navitimer, depending on who you ask, came out in 1952 or 1954. What everyone agrees is that it is the iconic piece at Breitling and the most consistently produced watch over the last number of decades, really since the 50s, the longest continuously produced chronograph, if we give Breitling a path through its brief bankruptcy in the late 70s, and a little bit of a pass for that. So the watch is the icon, the same way the Speedmaster Professional is Omega's icon and the Sub is Rolex's icon. If you're going to buy just one Breitling, you buy this. It does have those vintage watch features of squared-off lugs with minimal beveling and a very narrow case band. And because the case back is set back somewhat, when it's actually on your wrist, it looks thinner than it is. We have these vintage-inspired pump-style pushers, which have both satin and polish, and then a Breitling B on a crown that is a push-down. The watch has 30 meters water resistance. There's knurling on the crown, most of which is polished outboard, and then you can see the recesses have been satinated. We have a dramatically domed sapphire, and it is a sapphire, bubble-like, to evoke a vintage plexiglass, but with sapphire scratch resistance. Now, the watch includes a circular slide rule. It's a logarithmic scale. It doesn't have all the scales of a conventional slide rule, so, for example, if you want to do square roots or something like that, it's going to be fairly cumbersome. It's primarily for multiplication and division. It wasn't the first circular slide rule watch. That was actually Mimo Loga, I believe, in the early 40s, and it wasn't even the first Breitling watch to feature a calculator bezel. That was the original 1940s Chronomat. But this is more advanced in that it includes various units, nautical, statute, miles, of course, kilometers, and the ability to calculate rates like fuel consumption, drift, ground speed, airspeed, rate of climb, rate of descent. That's what made this quite sophisticated in its day. Now, the way this works is you've got an inner scale and an outer scale. The outer scale is silver white. The inner scale is printed on the black of the primary dial. It works really intuitively, and as soon as you figure it out, you'll find that it's almost a no-brainer. So let's say I want to divide 70 by 35. It works like a fraction. I put 70 over 35, and then where I look for my answer is the inner scale, the index. The index is always 10. So 70 divided by 35 is 2. You got to keep your decimals in mind because it's not going to give you that. You just need to know what magnitude you're looking at. It will give you the correct number. Now let's say I want to multiply, I don't know, 15 by 3. I now put 15 over the index on the inner bezel, and I look for 3, and sure enough, 15 multiplied by 3 is 45. Again, you got to keep your decimals in mind. Taking a quick look here, we've got a little bit of luminescence. It's a fairly well-loomed watch. You should have no trouble reading it in the dark, if not reading the chronograph indications. The dial is black and inverse panda with silver-white registers, and part of the design language in the current era of Breitling, really since 2017, has been that in-house calibers with chronograph movements, they have tone-on-tone dials. So the fact that these are silver on black indicates that Breitling's B01 movement is inside. We have the historic AOPA shield with wings. This is a nod to the Aircraft Owners and Pilots Association, which originally marketed the Navitimer in the 50s as a flight calculator designed specifically for pilots, and some even say that the Navitimer was actually a commission specifically for AOPA. Breitling denies that, but regardless, it rose to prominence with AOPA in its pilot's catalog for members, and originally that little slash across the center of the shield would have had the letters AOPA. So this is a nod to history, if not completely true in form. We have little sunken registers. You can see they're dished with concentric patterns internally. We have rose gold logos, hands, and applique indices, a feature more upscale than we would have found on a traditional Navitimer, which would not have had the appliques. Caliber B01 features a stop seconds function, so you can stop the watch and set it to a reference time. There is also a quick set for the date, so you can rapidly cycle it. We have an ultra crisp column wheel. It's one of the best feeling in the business, along with Rolex caliber 4131, all versions of the El Primero and the Longa L951 in the Dotograph and the 1815 Chrono. Just really positive, the way it feels, the way it sounds. And you can see as the chronograph engages, there's no jump or extraneous movement to the seconds hand. It's a seamless vertical clutch engagement, which also allows you to run the chrono full-time without any hazard, wear, or tear. The watch features caliber B01, which launched in 2009 on the Chronomat series, was never actually designed for display caseback, but being fairly large and good-looking, it actually adapted quite well to display casebacks. There is a packing sticker on the back of this. That's what you're looking at. It is certified chronometer, 5-position adjusted, COSC recognized, 70-hour power reserve, automatic winding, 4 Hertz beat rate, pivots on 47 joules, and as you can see, it uses a sort of modified version of Edicron with a fine adjustment mechanism. It's got a custom regulator. This model being in a rose gold watch, you saw the Clasp, which was a signature of the more upscale Navitimers, and then we also have a rose gold rotor here. You can see a vintage logo featured on mid-century Breitling watches, the overlapping aircraft motif. That's what that is right there. And you can see that we have a combination of stripes, media blast on the base plate, black polished screws. You can see the chronograph components have been polished. It's not artisanally finished, but it is attractive and handsome to look at. It's worth a display caseback. All of this water resistant to 30 meters, beaten at 4 Hertz. It is a pilot's watch, so not really designed for swimming. If you want to swim with your Breitling, you've got the Super Ocean for that. Reach out to Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details.